There is a kind of street race that has played out thousands of times on real streets and on drag strips and in grainy videos watched by millions, and it almost always ends the same way. On one side, a supercar, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a Porsche, hundreds of thousands of dollars of exotic engineering, the absolute pinnacle of what the great performance houses can build. On the other side, an old Toyota, a Supra, often with peeling paint and a cracked dashboard, a car that cost a fraction of the exotic when it was new and looks like nothing special sitting still. The light drops, and the cheap old Toyota pulls away from the supercar and disappears, its engine screaming, leaving 6 figures of Italian exotica staring at its taillights. How is that possible? How does an engine from the company that builds the Camry, the most sensible, boring, appliance-like car brand on Earth, humiliate the machines built by people who do nothing but chase speed? The answer is one of the greatest engineering stories of the last 50 years, and it is the story of an engine called the 2JZ. To understand why this is so remarkable, you have to understand who Toyota was when they built it. In the early 1990s, Toyota was not a performance brand. They were the company you bought a car from when you wanted it to start every morning for 20 years and never surprise you. Reliability was their entire identity. They were, in the eyes of the exotic car makers, the opposite of exciting. Ferrari built passion. Lamborghini built drama. Toyota built transportation. So when Toyota set out to build a flagship sports car, the Supra, and the engine to power it, nobody in the exotic world paid much attention. They assumed it would be sensible and competent and forgettable, like everything else Toyota made. What Toyota actually built was a quiet act of engineering defiance that would embarrass all of them for the next 30 years. The engine was a 3-liter inline-six, twin turbocharged, and from the factory it made a number that was, frankly, modest. Around 320 horsepower in its strongest factory trim. That was respectable for the era, but nothing that would frighten a Ferrari. If you only looked at that number, you would file the Supra away as a nice, quick Toyota and move on. But the factory horsepower number is the single most misleading thing about this engine, and understanding why is the key to the entire story. Because Toyota did not build this engine to make 320 horsepower. They built an engine capable of withstanding 2, 3, even 4 times that much, and then they detuned it down to a sensible number for the showroom. They massively, almost absurdly over-engineered it and then sold it quietly, with all that hidden strength waiting inside, like a secret. If you are enjoying this, hit the like button, because the story of the boring company that humiliated the exotics is exactly the kind of thing the prestige automotive world would rather you not dwell on, and it genuinely helps this reach more people. Now let me show you what Toyota actually built, because the genius is in the iron. The heart of the 2JZ is its engine block, and Toyota made a decision that on paper looked old-fashioned and even backward. While much of the industry was moving toward lighter aluminum blocks to save weight, Toyota built the 2JZ's block out of cast iron, heavy, dense, unfashionable cast iron. The weight penalty was real, and a lazy engineer would have called it a mistake. But iron has one supreme virtue. It is immensely strong, far stronger than aluminum, and it can withstand enormous internal pressure without flexing or cracking. Then Toyota went further. They used what is called a closed-deck design, meaning the top of the block is nearly solid metal, with the cylinder walls rigidly supported all the way around. Most performance engines of the era used an open deck, which cools better but allows the cylinders to flex and shift when you force huge amounts of air and fuel into them. Toyota's closed iron deck meant the cylinders simply would not move, no matter how hard you pushed. The block could withstand cylinder pressures that would split a lesser engine apart like dropped fruit. And it did not stop at the block. Inside, Toyota fitted a forged steel crankshaft, the strongest way to make that critical component, held in place by 7 massive main bearings. They added forged connecting rods, stout and overstrong. They installed oil squirters that spray the underside of the pistons to keep them cool under extreme stress. Every single decision pointed in the same direction. Strength far, far beyond what a 320 horsepower engine could ever possibly need. Toyota built a bottom end that, by the measurement of the people who would spend the next decades testing its limits, could safely handle somewhere around 700 to 800 horsepower without anyone ever opening it up to reinforce it. Let that sink in. The engine made 320 from the factory, and its untouched internals could take more than double that. Toyota left an ocean of hidden capability sitting inside an engine they sold as a sensible Toyota. Why would a company do that? Why spend the money to build an engine vastly stronger than the car needed? Part of it was Toyota's obsession with durability, the same instinct that makes their trucks run forever. An engine that is never stressed to its limit in normal use is an engine that essentially never wears out. But part of it was something more like quiet pride. Toyota's engineers built the best engine they knew how to build, and they did not cut it down to the minimum the spreadsheet allowed. And in doing so, without necessarily intending to, they created the single greatest gift the performance world has ever received, because the people who bought these cars discovered something extraordinary. You could take a stock 2JZ, bolt on a bigger turbo, add better fuel and proper tuning, and double its power, and the engine just shrugged and kept running. No bottom-end rebuild, no splitting the block open. The strength Toyota had buried inside was now yours to unlock. The tuning world lost its mind. Here was an engine that could make 700, 800, 900 horsepower on its factory internals, the same iron block and forged crank that rolled off the assembly line. Push past 1,000 horsepower with some upgraded parts, and it was still reliable enough to drive on the street. The numbers climbed into territory that sounded like fiction. Street-driven cars making well over 1,000 horsepower on the original factory block. Full-built versions of the engine producing power figures that exceeded 2,000 horsepower from a 3-liter Toyota designed in the 1980s. There is simply no other production engine in history that responds to abuse the way the 2JZ does. You can ask it for double its rated power and it answers without complaint. That is not normal. That is the result of an engineering team that built something far better than they were asked to. And this is where the supercars enter the story and where they get humbled. A Ferrari or a Lamborghini of the era was a finely tuned instrument engineered to extract a specific, spectacular amount of power from an exotic, expensive, often fragile engine. They were built to a peak, with little headroom left over, because squeezing the maximum from the package was the whole point. The 2JZ was the opposite philosophy. It was built with vast headroom, a foundation so strong that the factory power was almost an afterthought. So when an enthusiast spent a modest sum to unlock the Supra's hidden potential, they ended up with a cheap Japanese car that could outrun exotics, costing 10 and 20 times as much. The image became iconic. The beat-up Supra at the drag strip, the supercar owners in their pristine machines, and the Toyota walking away from all of them. The boring company's engine, the one nobody took seriously, had quietly out-engineered the most prestigious names in the business. Not by making more power from the factory, but by building something so fundamentally strong that it could become whatever its owner dreamed. The cultural impact was enormous. The 2JZ became a legend, immortalized in films and video games, the engine of choice for anyone who wanted to embarrass something more expensive. People began swapping it into everything because they trusted it to take the abuse. A clean, original Supra, which once sold for a reasonable price, now commands sums approaching and exceeding the cost of the supercars it used to humble, precisely because the world finally understood what Toyota had built. The boring engine became the most coveted performance engine of its generation. The thing the prestige brands dismissed turned out to be worth more than the things they built. So what is the lesson buried inside all that iron and boost, beyond the sheer pleasure of watching a cheap car beat an expensive one? It is the same truth this channel comes back to again and again, the truth at the very heart of how to think about any machine. The thing built with strength and headroom and honest over-engineering will outlast and outperform the thing built to a flashy peak with nothing held in reserve. The exotic car makers built to impress on day one. Toyota built to endure forever. And in building for endurance, they accidentally built the ultimate performer. The boring choice, the overstrong block, the unglamorous iron, the durability obsession, all the things that sounded sensible and dull are exactly what made the 2JZ a giant killer. The same philosophy that makes a Toyota truck run for 300,000 miles is the philosophy that lets a Toyota engine make 4 times its rated power. It was never two different things. Strength and durability and the refusal to cut corners are what make a machine both reliable and, when you need it to be, devastating. The next time someone tells you the expensive, exotic, prestigious machine is automatically the superior one, remember the boring Toyota engine that humiliated Ferraris and Lamborghinis for 30 years, that could take double its rated power without complaint while the exotics strained at their limits, and that is now worth more than the supercars it used to leave in the dust. The company everyone underestimated built the engine everyone now worships. They did it not by chasing glory, but by refusing to build anything less than the strongest engine they knew how to make. And that, in the end, is the whole secret. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, share it with someone who still thinks you have to spend a fortune to go fast. Drop a comment and tell me the most underestimated engine you have ever come across. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because there are a lot more stories like this coming. Stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next one.